Yep. Go live. Okay, I'm live on Facebook. Yes, I'm live. I'm live on YouTube. Yes, I'm live on YouTube.
What is live?
Yes, I'm live on YouTube also, it seems. Cool. I'm live on Facebook also. Oh, okay. Seems okay now. Okay, I guess we can start now.
Uh, so we'll just start off with introducing his audience so that everybody knows our and
Ah,
stuff. Um,
yes. Just gonna go and check my stream. Stream seems to be fine. Both streams look like they're working well. Cool. Okay, let's get started then.
yeah. So I think we can just start off with introducing yourself to the audience so that they'll just know and stuff, and then maybe we can get into the topic. Today's podcast.
Perfect. Okay, so hello everyone who is watching. I'm Niraj Sangani, and I am a game designer primarily. I've been working as a professional game designer for almost 12 years now, and now I am also a game design mentor at Backstage Pass. Uh, Today I'm going to be talking about monetization in video games and things around it, the good, the bad, the ugly. This is from my personal experience and my personal perspective. So some of these things can be a little biased or cynical, but a lot of this comes from hands-on experience working on free-to-play games and worked on a lot of free-to-play games. So yeah, let's get started.
Yeah. As you said, today's topic is about monetization on free-to-play games. So, like, what do you think, or how? What are the strategies that you come to monetize a game? What is the process that you go through?
So primarily, it completely depends on the kind of game that we are working on, right? So let's say, for example, it's a game which is made for casual people, casual audience, right? Primary target is casual audience. So there, you are focusing on a very different kind of strategy compared to what you are doing for a more of a competitive kind of a game, right? For example, something like Candy Crush has a completely different monetization strategy from something like Call of Duty. Right? So for Candy Crush, when you are thinking, you are looking at who the target audience is. So in Candy Crush's case, the majority, the big majority of the players are primarily women, right? So you are not only looking at how to monetize them, but first, more importantly, you are looking at how to retain them in the game and how to keep them coming back every day in the game, right? So monetization is not just like how to make money or what to sell, but a lot of it is about how to keep the player in so you can sell stuff, right? So think about it, from a perspective of something like Amazon. So on Amazon, the UX, because of the UX, like the user experience, how it is, the way the products are listed, the filters, all these things, right? It provides a good user experience, and that also kind of allows you allows you to look at various things and sometimes even buy stuff that you are not really going to buy, right? Or even you look at something like DMart or some other big supermarket. You will find a lot of things placed next to each other which you didn't really want, but after looking at it, the packaging looks attractive, the aisle location looks attractive, and that makes you kind of buy stuff. So in the same way, games like Candy Crush or Call of Duty, work in a similar fashion. But instead of having like an aisle to show all the things, you kind of use different strategies, stuff like hard paywalls, right? So for example, in Candy Crush, when you are stuck on a very hard level, sometimes you are not able to go ahead, sometimes you are not able to finish the game. You just need a couple of more moves left, right? That extra difficulty kind of drives you towards buying or spending boosters that you already have. And once you kind of get used to spending boosters, it makes you want to spend them again, because that kind of helped you out the last time. And so you end up spending some money and buying a new booster pack. And in a game like Call of Duty or Valorant or Counter Strike or Dota, these games are primarily driven around monetization strategies of cosmetics. Right? You don't really get any advantage in the game, but it's more about showing off stuff. So that is like one aspect of it, showing off stuff. And when you talk about showing off things, you want to show off something which is not easy to get, right? Like for example, if I purchase a 5,000 rupee cell phone, it's not really something that I can show off, if you know what I mean, right? But if on the same side, if it's something like a Galaxy Fold, right? Like iPhone used to be that kind of a status quo thing, where iPhone is something you want to show off, but foldables, because of that newness or the freshness or the novelty in design, it kind of becomes a more important way to, or more how do I put it, like a bigger, larger than life way to show off, right? Because you have something that very few people have, and because you see that something which very few people have, you also want it, and because you want it, that kind of creates that FOMO, so fear of missing out, and that FOMO drives into monetization. So you look at stuff like, one of the biggest examples right now for most free-to-play games is a season pass or a battle pass, right? And the season pass and battle pass mechanic, like how does it work? It works because it's going to expire when the season ends. So you want to come into the game and you want to grind and get it, right? And then there is also this free tiers and paid tiers. Some games do it parallelly. Some games have more than one paid tier, one premium tier, and then some games have like a premium, like one tier, but you see a lot of free rewards sprinkled on the what is it, the path of the battle pass, right? Like Diablo 4 is a good example for that. In Diablo 4, the first item is generally like the season pass, the season right now, the battle pass right now. The first item is a premium item, second item is paid, and then the third item is premium again, fourth is paid, and then so on. Like it starts easy like that. So you get the player used to getting those rewards, right? You make it achievable, and then once it's kind of achievable, you try to how do you say that, twist their wrist of sorts, twist their arm of sorts in a way, and make them feel like they are missing out on something really, really important. And it's also another way to force the player to buy the battle pass. Like for example, you have, let's say, unlocked 30 levels of the battle pass in this season, and it's about to expire, right? Yeah, 1 second. Say hi to the wait. Say hi to the cat. Cat wants to join the podcast. So yeah, you're about to what is it? The season is about to end, right? And because the season is going to end, you want to make sure that don't miss out on the rewards, right? So you would see when it comes to battle passes, a lot of battle passes are either bought at the beginning of a season or around the end of a season, because at the beginning of the season you will people who are definitely going to buy the battle pass will buy the battle pass, and people at the end of the players or the users who buy the battle pass at the end of a season are really looking to min max their sort of battle pass. Like they've already played the game a bunch, they've already unlocked a lot of levels, so you don't really want to miss out on buying that. Give me 1 second. My cat needs some space on the desk. Yes. Okay. Yeah. So I hope that kind of answers your question to some extent. Maybe we can dive deeper into like certain aspects of this later. But yeah. Uh,
Uh, as you've mentioned, key example of Candy Crush, where there are like harder levels where kind of motivate the player into spending money so that they can get an advantage, or like they can just finish a level also.
mhm.
What would be the actual fair balance between an enjoyable experience for the player and then also maybe monetizing the game in a fair way? So much so that the game does not get so hard that the players just drop out and pay.
So, to be very honest with you, right, there is no right answer to this. This is something you kind of figure out with experimentation. This is where data comes in, right? You change things in a certain way, and then people play the game, and you see what happened. You see how the people liked it. You see completion rates. You have all these different data points that you look at. Where did you lose players? What were the levels where the most players lost? How many times did the players try to use a booster or spend some money? On which level was it the most successful? So you kind of figure out, okay, what is the ideal difficulty, right? So for example, for a new player, the one of the hard levels which comes early on in the game, like in the first 50 levels, right? The difficulty of that hard level, the challenge of that hard level would be much lower compared to something that happens like after level 500, right? Because even the player has just started playing the game, so they have not really gotten very used to the game yet. But an elder player is much more used to, or much more, skilled when it comes to completing levels, right? So you have a lot of different checks and balances for us to do this, and you have to refer to a lot of data. So how do you do that? Sometimes you use A/B testing, right? So for example, so basically let me just explain what A/B testing means, right? So you have two variations of the same difficulties. For example, let's say level X, right? Level X needs to be completed with 50 moves total, right? You cannot do more than 50 moves. But now when it comes to like you want to test, okay, if 50 moves is too high or too low, right? You want to figure out, okay, if this number is good or not good. So what you do is you kind of divide. I'm just giving you a very very rough example, right? There is much more intricacy when it comes to A/B testing, but on a very high level, this is how it works. So you kind of divide your audience in two, right? Like you say 50% will when they start this level, they will see 50 moves. That is your control version, right? Your control, and then you have a variant. So in your variant, you will say, okay, I want to do 45 moves, right? So you run one test with 50 moves, and you run another test with 45 moves, and at the end of it, right? At the end of it, let's say you run the test for about a couple of weeks or a month, right? And at the end of a month, you look at the completion rate. If a lot of people were able to complete the game, complete the level in A, like in the control version, 50 moves, then you understand, okay, this is difficult enough, but not too difficult. Like you would compare the results of both the tests and see what the data tells you. And based on your data, you will understand, okay, so which category of players. So even when you divide the two subsets of players like 50-50, in those 50 you will have additional subsets, right? You will have players who have purchased stuff before, you will have players who have never purchased things, you will have players who are frequent users of boosters, you will have players who don't really rely on boosters at all, and then you will see how many moves are left on completion rates for all these kinds of players. And based on all these data, you would do your next A/B test. So now you would tweak certain things. You would change the difficulty of the game. You would change the spawn rate of various matchables. You would change the total number of moves required, and then you will see, okay, what worked, what didn't work. So based on that, you kind of understand what kind of players are more likely to spend money, right? Because if you see players who are using boosters regularly, they are more likely to use boosters again. And if you run out of boosters, you can do this kind of pop-up marketing sort of a thing where let's say you have a special sale for a specific cohort of players, right? And for these players, you will sell something that you usually sell for $5. Instead of $5, you will sell it for $1. Thereby showing them, okay, this is a limited time sale for them specially, and that's kind of how they would go towards buying it. And once a user spends money in a game one time, they are more likely to spend it again, right? The more times you spend money in a game, the more likely you are to spend it again. And I'm sure you guys can also think of it from your own, like remember it from your own perspectives. When you have spent money in a free-to-play game, you might have spent it a second time or a third time or a fourth time, but it's just that the initial barrier that needs to be cleared, and that is why you have sales, you have season passes, you have all these event based things, right? Ultimately, it is just about trying to convert a player from a non-payer to a payer. Yeah, does that answer the question?
Yeah, it does. It does. Like, so it obviously plays a key role in even game design, what's happening and where the player is like turning off. Uh, so it's like, how do you, mobile games and hyper casual games are like have very short, and if you monetize it or fill it with ads, so do you think it can retain players long enough to actually monetization model?
So
Because these
the
days hyper casual games, they put in a lot of ads and there are more pop-ups.
yeah.
So yeah, so do you think they can retain players long enough for the model to actually?
Yeah, but that's the thing with hyper casual games, right? Hyper casual games, I mean, this is going to sound a little bad, but hyper casual games are essentially vaporware. Like they are just like traps that you put out for a bit, and you hope you make as much money as possible in the littlest time. Like when it comes to retention, hyper casual games don't have a life of more than 2 3 days usually. And in those 2 3 days, you want to get as many ad views as possible, right? I mean, if you get some users to pay some money, even better. But in most cases, hyper casual games just make money based on ads, because it's all about watch an ad to get some reward very fast, or watch an ad to continue your last level. So think of it like Subway Surfers, but watered down by a lot. Right? That is what hyper casual games are. It's just casual games which are watered down very very much, having a single mechanic and trying to monetize base as fast as possible. So the whole point of not like hyper, there's no reason for you to have a hyper casual game which can monetize long term, because in most cases hyper casual games, if you look at their graphics, if you look at their mechanics, they are built usually in like a couple of weeks, 3 weeks tops, right? So you need to spend as little time as possible making those games, and you need those games to be in your users devices, and retained by your users for as long as possible. And yeah, I mean, it would be like 3 to 5 days, maybe 7 days. Like some hyper casual games which have really cool, fun mechanics, they might go on for a little longer, but that is not usually the case. Like you are not going to have a long-term retention in hyper casual games. In casual games, on the other hand, while the mechanics might be simple, there is still a lot of progression in games. Like for example, like Candy Crush, Royal Match. These match 3 games, they are the cream of the cream. Right? They are the kind of the best casual games out there when it comes to revenue, when it comes to user retention, when it comes to user acquisition, like all the KPIs, right? All the KPIs are hit really well in these two games. So when it comes to these two games, it's about trying to retain your player for longer, because you don't really want to monetize through ads. While you would have a little bit of monetization through ads, your majority of monetization is going to come from people spending money. Although in most mobile games you would have maybe 2 to 5% audiences of all of them who would spend any money at all, right? And then out of those 2 to 5%, maybe 1 to 2% would be the people who are whales, who the industry like to call whales, because they are like the big spenders, big high rollers as we call them. and then the vast majority of them would be spending very little, like maybe $2, $3, $4, right? So this is what you would call like the LTV of the game, sorry, LTV of a user, so lifetime value of a user. So usually when you start making the game, right, your product team would have like an idea of what kind of LTV is the game going to generate for a user, because you know how much time it's going to take to make the game, what are the resources, how much money you are investing in development, in marketing, in research, all the things, right? So based on these things, you look at what the market has in terms of retention of other games, right? Let's say making a game costs 100 rupees, right? And like including everything, it costs 100 rupees, and you see that okay, these games they run for let's say this casual game, like usually the best casual game, the median of casual games run for 5 days, right? So you want to recover that 500, that 100 rupees over 5 days, and then some more, right? Because you also want to make a profit. So let's say you want to make 150 rupees by making that 100 rupee game. Now you look at what is the average number of users that play those games. So let's say thousand, like 100 users play those kind of games for 5 days, right? So now you kind of come to a conclusion that okay, the LTV for your game would be something in the range of 1 rupee per user or 1.5 rupee per user. That is how much you want to get out of all the users on average, right? But that is not going to happen. Like 5 users might spend 5 rupees each, and one user might spend 10 rupees. And so that is how you kind of recover the majority of your money. And then all the other users would watch some ads and make and give you like 1 rupee, half a rupee over 3, 4, 5 days. So that's how kind of you think of how distribution of economics on these games work in terms of monetization. Again, a lot of oversimplification being happening here. But yeah, that's kind of how this works on a high level.
Uh, that answers my question because, like, I sometimes I feel like when I play hyper casual games, it's filled with many ads, and I just log off or just call it because I'm sick of it. Like for me, I play very less time while games. I just want it to be an experience. So, is there like a specific trend or way that monetizations have? Like, these days, if you look at mobile games, mostly they're like bullet mayhems or idle games that are being right now. So, is monetization technique or your ad placement some according to the genre of the game, trends in the game, or does it stay across along with the same game?
Yeah, so most likely, in mobile games, what happens is there is one game that comes out, right, and it is doing some things really well, and then you see a bunch of copycats coming in, right? So out of these copycats, there might be one or two games which kind of add actual value to like the type of game it is, and then apart from that, all the games will kind of work in the same way, right? You won't really see a lot of innovation happening when it comes to these kind of games. But like one of my favorite examples about this is FPS games, right? So when FPS games started out, right, the Doom was like the first proper FPS game. I mean, Wolf came before it, but like Doom was like the first FPS game. And then when a bunch of other game studios started making these games, they used to be called Doom clones, right? First person shooter term had not really taken a front row seat yet, like it hadn't taken form yet. But when Half-Life came out, that kind of showed that okay, this is a genre. It's not like all games don't have to play like Doom. There are other things you can do with them. So that is also how mobile games, how free-to-play games work, right? You look at all free-to-play games, mobile or PC right now. Like a vast majority of them will have battle pass. Like they will definitely have battle pass. Maybe not hyper casual games, but like casual games are starting to add battle passes. Midcore games have battle passes. Hardcore games have had battle passes for a long time. So you see what everyone is doing, what is successful in the market, and you kind of copy it. That is generally how things go. But now here, the games that actually do it well, they make money. The games which try to innovate make money, but the rest of them kind of just vaporize and don't really go anywhere. So if you, like for example, you go to App Store and you see match three games, right? In match three genre, there are a lot of subgenres, right? So like Candy Crush is like your, like the prime match three. Like it is the one that kind of started it all. I mean, the, there have been many match three games before that as well. Like Bejeweled was one of the original match three games. But in terms of mobile free to play, Candy Crush is like the biggest name. Like they perfected match three. But then for a long time, there were not really any good match three games which were competition for Candy Crush. And Candy Crush has still been like in the top of the charts, right? But how do you beat that, right? What do you do to beat that? In the only way to beat that is innovation. You cannot just keep copying Candy Crush and hoping to succeed, right? Because a lot of games were doing that, and I mean they might have made some money here or there, but they were never in the top charts for long. Like they might have been there for like a day, maybe two, but other than that, like very few games have ever made it to the top charts which are match three games. But then there were games which innovated, right? Games like Toon Blast. It is a match three. It's a match game, but like not a match three game per se. But instead of swiping, they changed the mechanics, and now if tiles are together, you tap on them. So it's like Tetris meets match three, right? So there were a lot of copycats for that game as well. Some of them succeeded, some of them didn't succeed, but and then that game made money. It is still going really well. It has high retention. It definitely makes a lot of money. And then there's another game, Royal Match, again match three, but slightly different. It added a meta game layer to it. So now this time you have Toon Blast on one side and Royal Match on the other side, right? Both the games, all three of these games, very casual, a lot of overlap of target audience, but all three of these games offer something different, right? So in Toon Blast, it offers you much more fast-paced gameplay, and the art style is different. It's not candy, it's something fresh for the users. And Royal Match, it offers you quests. They are very superficial quests, right? Like you are not really achieving anything when it comes to quests. You are just playing the same kind of levels over and over again. But when you finish a level, you get some stars, right? And then once you get those stars, you kind of spend them as well. So the stars are also your currency, progression currency, to give you more progression in the game, to unlock new stuff in the game, which is generally just cosmetic stuff that you're decorating like a 2D image with, right? You're just changing some layers on a 2D image. But even those small additions, they added a lot of value for casual audience, right? And that's kind of happening in other games, right? Like homescapes, gardenscapes, all these scapes games, right? Very similar to, like, gameplay point of view, very similar to Candy Crush, very similar to Royal Match, very similar to Toon Blast, like Lily's Garden, Chrome Valley Customs, also Forza Customs, right? Forza IP as a match 3 game, like think about it. It's crazy, and everyone wants to make match 3 games. So, but unless you have some innovation or a big IP, you are not really going to do much, right? So that's the difficulty of making a casual game, or any kind of game for that matter. Right? A lot of games come in, a lot of games die. Like for example, when Overwatch was so popular, you would see a lot of other hero-based, team-based shooters coming out, right? Lawbreakers was one of them, and then there was something with Blood Bowl or something. I don't remember the name of the game right now. So yeah, and then there was a Square Enix game which had come out recently, like a couple of years ago, I think. So all of these games that they kind of just fizzled out because they didn't really try to innovate any at all, but just died, right? But then Valorant comes in, and then Valorant, I mean, not now, it's a 6-7 year old game, right? But it still innovated. It took an existing formula which worked really well. In this case, it took two formulas, right? It took Counter Strike, which was working really well, had a really sorted out monetization system, had a really sorted out gameplay system, gameplay mechanics, everything was figured out, right? And it took the ideas from Overwatch or Apex Legends, right, where you have these agents or heroes or characters, and kind of all of this kind of goes back to Team Fortress 2. So it takes these ideas, combines them, and then executes them so well. And of course, the marketing money, streamers, all these things coming together you kind of get a lot of people on board and you have a successful game. So yeah, while you can copy stuff, copying stuff is not really going to make you successful. You are going to have to innovate for sure. Like without innovation, you are not going to make money. I see a lot of studios trying to, like in India especially, trying to just imitate stuff, like just copy stuff, without giving any additional innovation to it or trying to do something different, something new, something fresh, and they don't really succeed. Like sure, they might be able to sustain, and they might be also somewhat profitable, but they are not really going to go as big as King or Supercell anytime soon, right? Like this is just it's just like a family business, right? You just it's just going on, but it's not really progressing anywhere. Yeah?
That was that explains your answer.
Sorry, your voice is cracking. Go ahead.
Is it fine?
Yeah.
Yeah. That while you were talking about the monetization and different battle passes, that how mobile games are also turning.
Hmm.
So one of the area where battle passes are popular are on PC games. Internet.
Hmm.
So apart from battle passes, is there any other way monetize have free to play PC games? I mean, like there are a lot of good free to play games, but they are just battle passes. So other than that, is there anything that you can do to monetize that?
I mean, Battle Pass has kind of become like the biggest thing, because it kind of combines everything that you want from the game, right? So it adds retention mechanics, it adds engagement. So for example, you combine quest rewards with Battle Pass, right? So for example, I don't know if Call of Duty does this anymore or not. I haven't played it in a long time. But in the game you would find some quests, and like these quests would be like very generic stuff, like kill some players or open those some boxes that you can find, like some treasure boxes or something, collect some money, things like that, right? There's this money suitcase that you can find, and when you get these things, you get some points, and these points go towards your battle pass progression. I'm not sure if it just was Call of Duty or like there was some shooter game. I don't remember which one it is. And a lot of games still do similar mechanics, right? Where they have quests which are happening through gameplay, and these quests generally are things which are quite easy to achieve. There would be some quests which are like more skill based for like the high skilled players, but most of the time these quests would be very simple, right? And these quests keep you engaged. They keep you coming back every day because every day the quests refresh, and you have daily quests. Every day you come into the game, you have some daily login reward as well. That you can claim. It would usually be like a free reward or like a free loot box, something that opens up. So it can be like a daily login streak reward or something that makes you come every day, right? Every cycle, every session cycle. Session cycle can be 24 hours, it can be 6 hours, 12 hours, whatever it might be, right? You have a loot box or you have some gacha system or some reward system, some surprise mechanic, quote unquote, as EA so lovely love to say that. The surprise mechanics bring you in the game every specific set of hours, and because you get you're sure you get some reward from it, and this reward will help you get that item that you are going for, or at the same time there will be some points that you get which progress your battle pass, right? So battle pass is kind of a, I would say, like a hack of sorts now. Like every it just works, right? It just works. But then there is a lot of different kind of innovation coming in battle pass, right? You look at Call of Duty Warzone, and in Warzone, like they have these huge like maps on screen where you can unlock different areas of the map in your own path, uh, in your own progression, and and you can go towards something that you want instead of the game telling you where you should go. So that is kind of where the battle pass innovation is coming to some extent. So if you think about it, battle pass is also becoming like its own game of sorts inside a game. And yeah, so while there might be other ways to monetize, and there are a lot of other ways to monetize, but in most of these games which are competitive, you cannot really monetize for anything other than cosmetics, right? Because you bring in stuff like a gun that is much more powerful than like other guns, and kind of break the game, and you will have an exodus, an exodus on mass of a huge chunk of your players. But that works in casual games. In a game like Clash of Clans, you can essentially buy your way into like all the most powerful stuff in the game. Even Clash Royale, right? Clash Royale looks as a game which is competitive, but you can buy hundreds of loot boxes in the game, and when you buy all those loot boxes, you essentially unlock all the cards, which are also upgraded now. But you'll have to spend a lot of money to do it, right? So it's kind of a pay to win game. If you are going to pay, like it's pay and definitely win, like pay and win game, not pay to win game, but like pay and win game. Right? But you won't really have PC console competitive games going in that direction anytime soon. I don't think, because if they do, it's going to be a problem. So other than Battle Pass, what I have seen that works well is also subscriptions. People subscribe to like VIP passes, or some gold pass, or some pass that you pay money for every week or every month, or yearly or something like that. And that's also another good stream of monetization. And this is where you see the content cadence, right? When it comes to games like, let's say, Free Fire or Call of Duty, or any of these shooter games, something like Valorant or Counter Strike, right? And you see the kind of people they need, that they hire, and the kind of things that as a company they are focusing on. It is not really on adding value to the game itself. They are not really focused on improving the game, but they will be more focused on content cadence, right? Adding more stuff in the game, which is also kind of one of the reasons. Like, it's not the only reason, but one of the reasons this mass hire and mass fire things happen in the industry. Like in the last 4 5 months, you would see that there has been a lot of layoffs coming on in the West, especially. And while there are other reasons, some of the reasons are also expectations of monetization. Just because you invest a lot of money in stuff like Battle Pass or in cosmetics doesn't mean you are going to get as much returns back. So you'll see the place where you kind of reach that level of saturation in a lot of games, where games like Helldivers to come in and change the way you play, right? Like, it's a multiplayer competitive game, completely paid, right? And, I mean, there's microtransactions and stuff, but yeah, I mean, they don't really make you win the game as much. Like, even the grinding is not that difficult. It's not. There is no mechanics that give you a sense of pride, like a sense of pride and accomplishments. But yeah, lot of different ways to monetize. Like, there is no one right way or wrong ways, right? As I said, a lot of it is just trying stuff, right? Like, you have to experiment, and games that experiment become more successful, right? Like, when it comes, like, think about it, one of the most successful free-to-play games of all time, right? Fortnite. And why did Fortnite become so successful? Because they experimented with IP in the game, right? They added all these different, characters from all these different uh, things, right? Like, they have Thanos from Marvel, and then they got Goku, and then they like, I don't know, like, they had live events in the game where you could see, like, you could join a concert in the game, right? I remember I saw this post by Lady Gaga, where she asked, like, Fortnite what, and then, like, a few years later, she's like, oh, now she goes, like, I don't remember the exact post, but yeah, like, you know it's become such a popular thing that it's going out of video games, and it's going like in a metaverse kind of a direction. I don't really want to use that word a lot. It's a very vaporware sort of a thing, but in most cases, like, there is some potential there. But yeah, like, Fortnite is like the first true, well, the first thing closest to a true metaverse that you can say, right? So yeah, Fortnite, like, one of the leaders in the industry when it comes to monetization, right? And then you see what Fortnite has done, and everyone essentially just followed, right? Like while Fortnite was the most successful, I still want to just mention that Valve was one of the firsts when it comes to doing monetization in these ways. Like Battle Pass was kind of one of like Dota was the one of the firsts to do battle passes. Team Fortress 2 was one of the first games to do cosmetics. So yeah, and in-game microtransactions, Valve, they just kind of started it. Like Counter Strike started the whole loot box opening thing, right? And then Overwatch kind of followed and made it big. But yeah, Valve kind of perfected all these things. Initiated or instigated all these things, and other studios took those ideas and innovated and perfected, and then other studios took it and perfected further, and then you start seeing that it go in different directions, right? It's kind of like evolution, like a mutation. That there is this one first version of something, then you add a new variation to it, and you mutate that original thing, and it might be successful, it might not be successful, and then the natural selection of gamers, take into consideration what is good and what is bad. So yeah, that's kind of how that monetization thing goes. You're not sure what is the best way to go about it. You look at what's working in the market, and you follow suit there, but also you try to add some stuff to innovate there. Right? You don't really just copy paste. You also innovate. You don't just imitate. You also innovate. Yeah.
Uh, Speaking of free, free to play games on Steam, another popular genre is Genshin Impact and all those kind of games. So can we really consider gacha system to be a monetization method or a game mechanic?
Definitely monetization. There is no game mechanic there. Gacha is like games like Genshin Impact are essentially just pay to win games, right? It's just gambling. Right? Like it's not direct gambling, but it is gambling. And if it was not gambling, governments would not be stepping in to ban stuff like this, right? You look at a few countries in Europe have stopped gacha systems in games, like Belgium, for example, right? Like Belgium was one of the first countries to step on this, right? Because the game industry itself is not regulating. Right? They are not trying to regulate themselves at all, because they are just doing whatever works and trying to get as much money as possible with these mechanics which make you feel bad, like FOMO, because of all these things, right? And this thing in casinos which happens is you do one more try, like one more try, right? And that is something that gacha essentially works on, like one more pull, one more pull, one more pull, right? And as I said earlier, right, if a user spends once, they are more likely to spend again. And with gacha, it kind of increases exponentially, right? So yeah, gacha is not really a gameplay mechanic. Definitely not. It is a monetization mechanic. Nothing more than that. I mean, it's not really adding any value to the game, right? Like in gacha games, you'd see a lot of fun characters, but imagine those fun characters were just purchasable directly. Like, do you think the games would be making so much money? Like, if you could just purchase that character that you really like looking at, because I mean, essentially it's just selling visual character, right? So yeah, gacha games not really a mechanic, more definitely a monetization system. And personally, I'm not really a huge fan of that. It's not. I mean, Battle Pass is a way better. I feel much more ethical, or moral way to do monetization than Battle Pass. Than gachas.
Like I used to play Genshin Impact, and that used to happen with us as well. Uh, Another thing that is trending these days is ever since Game Pass got introduced, like subscription based models. So, does it really have an impact on how games are being monetized or something like that, or does it change anything for the developers, or the way designers split to monetize their games. Like even Google has started Google Play Pass, and Apple has its own Apple Arcade. Subscription-based models are more, they're increasing.
Hmm.
So like,
Even
do they have
even
any impact
Netflix,
on how?
even Netflix has added video games now, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think more than anything, right? These subscription services are primarily a marketing tool for the platforms, right? This is how they want to get more users on board. This is how they want to retain users. And I don't know if this has happened with you, but once you are, like once you get old, once you cross your 30 or something, right? Once you have like a steady flow of income coming in, and you start subscribing to these things, a lot of the times you forget that you have subscribed to certain things, right? And these subscriptions are just taking money. I mean, you are not really using them. So while it might be a great way for you as a user to get access to different services and different games, like I personally am a huge advocate of Game Pass. I use Game Pass. It's the value for it's very value for money. Personally, for me, I feel like 500-700 rupees or something like that per month. You, I can play a lot of different games. Like right now, I'm playing Diablo 4. I didn't really buy the game because I knew it was definitely going to come on Game Pass. So I didn't spend like 4,500 rupees. Instead of that, I got Game Pass. And yeah, now I'm able to play Diablo 4 on my PC and also on my Xbox with the same character. So that is really fun. Uh, and a lot of these times, what happens is I'm not exactly sure of the details of how these things work. But the developers who put their games on Game Pass, they usually there is some sort of upfront payment that Microsoft gives, like for Game Pass specifically, that Microsoft gives them as promotion, like hey, we give you this much money, you become platform exclusive for us, or it is based around time spent in game, right? Like for example, if like Hades, when it was on Game Pass, a lot of people played Hades. So how I think it was done is if you play a game a lot based on the time spent of users and some maths going on, the developer would get paid a certain amount of money based on where the user was from, yeah, all the different maths. Right? So Game Pass also became like a good way for discoverability, right? Visibility. Like if you are a user, if you are a developer who is making a game and you don't really have budget for like marketing properly, marketing on mass, you can definitely approach Xbox, and if your game has got it, it's a good chance that they might feature you. Or if it's like a different way, like Sony recently started doing it, they started featuring indie games because they want to show that hey, we have something other than AAA. Because you won't really be releasing a lot of AAA games all the time, but you want your name to be talked about in the market. So if it's a great marketing tool for these platforms, at the same time a great way for developers to make some money as well. So it's like a I won't really call it an evil per se. It's good. Like it's a good way to do stuff. It's ethical. But yeah, I mean, if you subscribe to stuff, like keep an eye out on canceling subscriptions that you're not using, right? And there are services now available in the market which track all the services that you are subscribed towards and allow you to cancel them directly. Like there's a solution for a problem that is so weird, which is also a good way to do business, right? Like you are trying to innovate, you're trying to get into some space which doesn't really exist, and trying to save people money. Like that's a good way to monetize. If you're making money because people are saving money. So yeah, subscription-based services like really good personally in my personal experience. I also use Play Pass, Google Play Pass, and there have been some really fun games I've played there. Some of them are not really good. They were just the free-to-play version of the game without the free-to-play stuff. They were not really rebalanced. You could still go in their shop and buy stuff, but the stuff here would just be purchasable for free. So there's no progression there. It's not really a proper premium game. It's just a free-to-play game which is kind of hacked, where you can just get everything instantly. So yeah, I mean there needs to be more work done there. But yeah, subscription services, I am all for that. Right? I would rather subscribe to one platform which gives me a lot of different things than to each game separately. Which is why I don't think I'll be canceling my subscription of Game Pass anytime soon, or even something like Humble Choice. Right, I have been a Humble Choice subscriber for like 4 or 5 years now. I pay like $100 a year for that, and I get a lot of games for free from there. Right, some of these games might just be like just sitting in my library, like I have not really claimed them, but a really good way for me to gift stuff as well, right? Like I have gifted my friends on their birthdays with Steam keys, which are just sitting there for a lot of games which I wouldn't necessarily play myself, but I know my friend might play. So different different perspective on that if you think about it. Subscriptions which help you give gifts. Yeah. So yeah, man, subscriptions, great stuff. Battle passes, great stuff. Gacha packs, not a fan.
Like, I just mentioned that Play Pass has this, that there is a premium version of the game in Play Pass and a free to play version. This affects the developer in terms of revenue. Like, the amount of money that the developers get from the game, it differs from the one that they downloaded from the Play Pass.
See, a lot of the times, what you are looking for is downloads, right? Numbers. So if your game is on Game Pass or Play Pass, like Google Play Pass, for example, right? And there are a lot of Play Pass subscribers, so you would download the game, and that download adds to the metrics of these games. So that download metric definitely is useful for a lot of things which is outside the game, like raise funding, right? To show to investors that hey, a lot of users are playing our game. Little bit of smoke and mirrors there, but it's legit. Like people are downloading the game. So that is one side of it, and the other side, making revenue and how studios are thinking differently. I think, as I said earlier, right, it's a lot about discoverability, right? There's a lot of games which are really good, really fun to play, but on mobile, a lot of people don't end up spending money to play those games. But when it comes to something like Play Pass, which is like 99 rupees a month or something like that, you will go out and try more games. The thing is, it is about getting yourself invested in the ecosystem, right? Because you spend money now, you are more likely to download games and play games. And a lot of the times you will see there are games on Play Pass which are like old games from a studio. Like I don't remember which studio it was, but there is a studio that makes a lot of tower defense games, and their old tower defense games are available on Play Pass, right? But their newer, better ones may not be available on Play Pass. So as a user, once you so let's say Play Pass users are not going to be very casual, right? They are people who are going to explore stuff, which is why they purchase Play Pass. So now, when you purchase Play Pass, you downloaded this one game, but you want to play something newer, so you go to that developer's page and you see, hey, they also have another game which is available right now to download, which is a newer game, and that game is going to be proper free to play, proper monetized game. So they've got a new user in that game as well who is more likely to spend money because you already spent money on Game Pass, so you know that hey, Play Pass is something that user is spend money on, and you as a user, since you are used to spending money, you are more likely to spend money again. So yeah, that's kind of how it works. It's a positive feedback loop in a way.
If you have a really good idea and you manage to game and you have to add monetization obviously to get money. But whatever idea that you have, this is a crash, a grab.
Sorry, your
How
voice
do
is
you
Loik, your voice is cracking. Can you repeat the question?
look?
No, I can hear you. It's just cracking.
Yeah. So as I was saying, you have a cool game idea and you make the game, but when you try to add monetization or just feel like it is turning into a cash grab or something like that rather than the initial cool idea you have. How do you generally deal with something?
See, I think this is a more of a philosophical question than actual question on monetization. But I understand what you mean, right? But at the end of the day, it is a business, right? You are making games to also make money, right? You are passionate about it. You want to turn your passionate idea into reality, and you want people to have fun. But you want people to have fun, and you also want to have food on your table, right? You cannot survive without that. You cannot make the other game that you want to make. So it is difficult. The ethical monetization is definitely difficult, and it takes a lot of effort in terms of marketing, in terms of getting a game out there. And ultimately, it's all about discoverability. If people do not know your game exists, they are not going to download. So marketing very very important. And I don't think monetization or free to play is an evil per se, right? There are ways to do it which are bad. It's like the atomic bomb, right? Like while the fission thing was a thing which was used to release energy, the way you harness it is different, right? Like the way you harness it changes the outcome of it. So same way it comes to free to play games. If you are doing it in a good ethical way, I see no harm. So in this case, like one of my favorite examples is Warframe. Like Warframe is a very old, I mean not very old, I mean technically very old. Like it's something from 2013, 14, I believe. A really fun game to play, very very well done monetization, very very ethically done, right? It either wants your time or wants your money, right? That's kind of how the game works, right? And to do that, it has to be fun to play. So the gameplay, the content has to be really good for you to keep wanting to play the game. Now, how it works is, there are these things that you can get in the game like cosmetics or gameplay mechanic stuff, like things that will improve your gameplay. So you can either grind for them or wait for someone else to grind for them, right? Because the game does not directly sell you stuff, but the game enables you to buy stuff from other players using premium currency called platinum. So if let's say you have a lot of free time, right, and I am very busy, right, like I have kids or I am married or I run a business or whatever, right, there could be 500 things that make someone very busy. So maybe I have like an hour of free time, but you're someone who's a college student, right, like, well, not you Lohit anymore, but other college students, right, someone who's a college student may have a lot more free time or a lot more inclination to grind. They might not get tired of grinding yet because they have not really reached that stage in life where they are over tedium, right? So they are more looking for grinding, but they don't really have money. So they want these cool cosmetics that are available in the game, but they don't have money to buy those cosmetics. So what do? They grind and they get these game breaking or game enhancing items, and when they get these items, they can sell it to people who have platinum. So I have money to buy platinum, and you have time to get items which I want to buy. So I buy platinum, you grind, I pay you money, and we are both happy. Win-win situation for both of us, and ultimately the studio definitely made money, right? And because the gameplay is so fun, retention is also pretty good. I mean, the early day retention might not be good, but Warframe has some of the best 1 year, 2 year, 3 year retention. So yeah, there's no problem in monetizing your game. It's just how you do it. That is it. Like, I mean, if someone is playing a game for free, right? Like that's free. Why would you do something for free? So you try to make some money off it. Like how Joker said in the Dark Knight. If you know something, never do it for free. Like something like that. I don't remember the exact dialogue, or if it's for Joker or not. I don't remember. But yeah, basically, if you know something, don't do it for free, right? Like why would you do it for free? So yeah, monetize your game, man. Like that's okay. You don't have to feel bad about it.
Unless what is the industry? How is the industry being affected by all these microtransactions and premium and subscription services?
Well, the industry is booming, but there are still layoffs, which is very weird. So, for example, Wizards of the East, Wizards of the Coast, the people who make Magic the Gathering cards, they have had one of their most successful years, but yet they had like a massive layoff happen. And not just them, like a lot of studios, like they did a lot of layoffs. So yeah, man, like the thing is, no, games have become very, very big to make now, right? Very, very expensive to make. But the reason that they are expensive is because of the race of making the most good looking game, right? The game with the most things. Because in mid 2000s and early 2010s, you would find a lot of double A games, right? Which were really fun to play, would last for 8 to 10 hours, and then you'd be done, right? But this games as a service model has kind of created this self-eating snake, like a snake eating its own tail, right? Because of sustaining, right? The more money you put in, the more money you need to get out, and that creates a sustainability problem. And because of that, you see a lot of layoffs happening because you hire people, you get them to do your work, and then at the end of it all, you lay them off. You show that hey, now our expenses have gone down. We have a higher profit margin, and that's how you show it to the shareholders, and that's how you get money for the next year. So yeah, it's an evil, and I don't think it's a necessary evil. I think be games games need to doesn't games do not need to look this good. You know, this race for photorealism is not sustainable. This race for having the most content to get the users, to get the players to spend the most time in your game, it's not sustainable. Like look at Candy Crush, right? I mean, Candy Crush has been going on for so long. It has like 10,000 levels or more than that, and like the majority of people on Candy Crush are either level designers or product managers, right? Like you have artists and stuff, right? But you would find a higher ratio of designers and product managers on a game like Candy Crush than you would find on other games, right? And this is why you don't see a Candy Crush 2 because of the way the industry has kind of evolved. It is not trying to really innovate. It is just trying to sustain as long as possible with minimal effort. That is what you want: minimum effort, maximum returns. So high ROI. So yeah, it's difficult, but yeah, but at the same time, there's also like good stuff happen this year in terms of what kind of games work. So Pal World was like a good example for a while, and then Helldivers 2, another great way to another great game. Baldur's Gate 3, another great example, right? People don't like gamers don't want to play outdated, boring stuff. They want to try new stuff. That is something that we have seen with these three games. They are open to innovative stuff. They are open to trying new stuff. They are open to paying money if the game is fun. At the same time, you look at something like Starfield. Starfield is bad, right? Like you might have had fun playing the game, but from a design standpoint, personally, I feel the game is bad. Like it's got nothing new. It has the same camera that Oblivion had, or even before Oblivion, Morrowind, right? Like it has the same mechanics. It's boring. Like there is no innovation really in that game. I mean, Cyberpunk, look at Cyberpunk 2077. Sure, like there were problems. It had crunch. It released very buggy, but it felt fresh in a lot of ways. Starfield feels like Skyrim in space. Like it's not really anything new, and it's a bug-riddled mess even now. So many loading screens. Like Half-Life took care of loading screens back in 2001, 2002, and Starfield still cannot get over loading screens, right? So yeah, where a lot of lack of innovation happening there, and Starfield has not really performed as well as Bethesda wanted it to, and I really hope that this teaches them a lesson and they try to innovate, right? And I don't really blame the people, like the developers themselves who work on the game, right? It's not up to them a lot of the times of what goes in the game. It's the publishers or the head honchos or the people in suits who decide the way games are going. If gamers are still buying the same kind of stuff, they they know that hey, we don't need to take a lot of risk, and we will sell the same kind of stuff. So until it's like pay, it's like vote with your wallet. Until you stop buying, crappy games, until you stop buying crappy monetization mechanics, you are not really going to see a lot of innovation happening in the industry. But at the same time, there are rebellious indies, rebellious double A studios, rebellious triple A studios who are trying new things, and some of them are succeeding as well. So kind of balances itself out eventually. I really hope we don't see a video game crash like we did in 93, 93 or 83 it was. The Atari video game crash, I don't remember. ET, or the one with ET, I think it was 83. So I really hope we don't see that again. But yeah, I think there is a lot of positives also, while with all the negatives. I hope things work out well for everyone, and I personally have seen a lot of fresh, innovative indie games coming out, and I personally am working on a couple of them, and I think yeah, we might have something good to say soon. But yeah, it's I kind of got out of the industry, so to speak, because I was kind of tired of what was happening. I wanted to do something innovative, something fresh, which is why I kind of took a career break of sorts, and tried to focus on my own thing because of you asked what is the industry doing to developers. Well, I am one of those examples where this whole money first mindset is kind of ruining it a lot in a lot of different ways. So while I am all for money, I think just money is not the answer. Gameplay is still king, I feel, and we have seen that proven time and again. That yes, gameplay is extremely important. And yeah, so when someone asked a question like, what are the drawbacks of Call of Duty Wars on mobile? I don't understand what you mean. What are the drawbacks? Is Warzone the new game, Lohit? The new one that came out, right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
the
the
PC
PC
version
version
that
that
got
got
ported
ported
into
into
mobile.
mobile. So the latest one, the one that came out last month.
Yeah,
Yeah. So I mean, I don't think there is any drawbacks. I think Warzone Mobile is like the complete package. It has all the maps, all the content from every Call of Duty game that existed. It's like the best version of Call of Duty, which is weird, right? The best version of Call of Duty is on mobile. So Activision also understands that they can make more money on mobile than they can on PC and console. Yeah.
even
Even
we
we
see
see
YouTube
YouTube
and
and
porting
porting
their
their
games,
games,
like
like
Tom
Tom
Clancy's
Clancy's
Rainbow
Sim
was
was
a
a
very
very
popular
popular
shooter
shooter
game,
game,
and
and
now
now
it
it
is
is
being
being
ported
ported
to
to
mobile.
mobile. Yeah. I mean, that's going to continue happening. Like Apex tried, I think Apex failed. PUBG has been really successful. Following PUBG, Free Fire has been really successful. Studios in India are making shooter games like that. Like, there is Indus coming out from Super Gaming, which looks very promising. There is UGW coming out of Mayhem, again looks promising. And Leela is working on a secret shooter project, like a survival shooter game of sorts. They don't really have a lot of public information available on what they are doing, but there is innovation coming from the industry as well internally in India. Uh, while we are trying to imitate to a certain extent, I think there is also some innovation with that. At least we are trying to add our own flavors, our own spin to it. Even Krafton recently released a new game. I forget the name of the game. It's a shooter kind of with Indian themes. Yeah, so definitely a lot of ports are happening. A lot of hardcore games are coming to mobile, which is a great thing. Like 10 years ago, 12 years ago, I had a conversation with one of the big wigs of the industry at a GDC conference, like IGDC in ASCOM, where we spoke about this, and yeah, like I imagined that this was definitely going to happen sooner or later. The industry veteran was not really very sure of it. We had like a nice debate about it. But yeah, like what the conclusion that we came to was, until there is a disruption in the industry when it comes to data and when it comes to devices, which came with Geo and with Xiaomi and a lot of other Chinese companies coming in and making low like low priced mid range phones, low priced phones with better performance. We started seeing innovation happening here because now there is an audience who can play these kind of games. So why not? Sorry. Yeah. Yeah. So that is continuing to happen and it will happen. We see a lot of ports on mobile and it is a great thing actually. Like the more audience is now exposed to these kind of games. So that's great. I hope things work well, things work better going forward. And I really hope that the industry, becomes less of a mess, less crunch, less layoffs, more job stability. Very, very important. And more remote, like more hybrid and remote uh, ways to do work. Yeah. So let's see how things go. You with?
Yeah, my mic seemed
Ah, okay,
issue.
fine.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so
so
thank you
thank you
for
for
this
this
session.
session.
It
It
was
was
really
really
informative
informative
on
on
how
how
games
games
are
are
monetized
monetized
or
or
how
how
different
different
things
things
work
work
in
in
the
the
industry.
industry.
Yeah,
Yeah,
this
this
was
was
a
a
very
very
good
good
talk
talk
and
and
nice
nice
talking.
talking.
Yeah, thank you, man. Thank you very much. I had fun as well.
Hopefully, you
Hopefully, you
can
can
come
come
back
back
for
for
Yeah,
a
a
different
definitely.
different
topic.
topic.
Most definitely, maybe we can get in more people and have like a proper like long form podcast where there are more industry people talking. Maybe I can bring on some of my ex colleagues, friends from the industry, and we can have a like a more detailed talk about some topics, not just general chat about the industry and whatnot.
Uh,
Uh,
yeah,
yeah,
my
my
mic
mic
is
is
just
just
giving
giving
up.
up.
Oh
So
yeah,
yeah,
I'm
I'm
just
just
gonna
gonna
end the
end the
podcast
podcast
here.
here.
All right,
So
sounds
thank
great, man. I had a lot of fun. Yeah, let's do this again soon. All right, everyone. Thank you very much for having me. I had a lot of fun, and yeah, I'll see you all soon. Bye bye now.